afternoon. We are welcome to the most recent installment of State Enforcers You Need to Know. And I'm Liz Brady with the Florida Attorney General's Office and also co-chair of the State Enforcement Committee, who is one of the sponsors of this series. Today's interviewee is Sarah Allen, who is got two titles or three titles, lots of titles. She is currently with the Virginia Attorney General's Office, and she is also the current NAAG Task Force Chair. So good afternoon, Sarah, and thanks for spending a little time so people can get to know you.
Hi, Liz, and thanks for asking me to be on today.
Let's start out with what is your current position and how long have you been there?
My current position is Senior Assistant Attorney General at the Virginia AG's office and Unit Manager of the Antitrust Unit. I've been here 19 years this stint. I have had four different job changes, but only two different jobs because I have worked at the FTC twice and the Virginia AG's office twice, but I have been a federal and state antitrust enforcer my entire career, which is almost 30 years now.
So why antitrust?
Well, antitrust is very different. You always are looking at different industries, whether it's a merger or a non-merger case. You're looking at the competitive dynamics of each industry. You're looking to see who the current competitors are, how hard it would be for another competitor to come in, what the other choices are for the people who buy or sell to that entity. And so it changes from case to case. Some of them are very intuitive and easy to understand, like toys and ebooks, and some of them, like Google and Facebook, maybe not so straightforward. And then you have a lot of regulatory overlay in our pharmaceutical cases, so that is challenging as well.
What kinds of cases are you currently working on at the Virginia AG's office?
Well, my title of Unit Manager of the Antitrust Unit is a little more grand sounding than it really is, because the Antitrust Unit in the Virginia AG's office only has two antitrust attorneys, including myself. So we have to stretch our resources to go as far as they can with only two attorneys, and that means a lot of multi-state work mostly. So we are currently involved in both the Facebook and Google litigations. We're on all three of the complaints in the generic drugs price fixing litigation. We are working with the FTC in 6 other states in the Daraprim drug litigation against Vieira and Martin Shkreli in the Southern District of New York. And we are on the Suboxone product cop litigation. And then we also work fairly closely with the FTC and DOJ on some non-public investigations that might have local market impacts in Virginia. We've got 3 or 4 of those going right now. And then finally, the NAAG Antitrust Task Force has 11 subject matter committees that have sometimes little projects or work groups that come up around a particular issue of concern to that subject matter committee. And we're involved in 2 of those right now. So we are definitely stretching our resources as far as we can.
It sounds like it. Since you have been both a federal enforcer and a state enforcer, could you let the audience know a little bit about the similarities and differences between those two enforcers?
The main day-to-day difference for an attorney is that the FTC tends to allow you to kind of focus on one matter at a time. So you can get very, very in-depth, very into the details of the case, which is very nice to do. The states, because we have so few attorneys involved in so many different things, like I just outlined, it's impossible for us to have only one case going at a time. And so, both of them have their pluses and minuses. Sometimes I feel like I'd like to get more into the details of some of these cases I do in the States. And sometimes when I was at the FTC, I kind of wanted to stick my head up out of the fray and look at something else. So, and then one of the other things I think that's a big difference sometimes is that the chairman of the FTC will sometimes have an enforcement initiative that he or she would like the staff to focus on. And so two that I can remember are Chairman Potofsky really wanted to reinvigorate Robinson Patman when he was there. And so the FTC ended up bringing the McCormick case. And then when Tim Muris was chairman, he kind of wanted to reinvigorate state action immunity and kind of limiting that. So he had the staff lead a lot of investigations into state agencies and state boards. And I think there's, with Google and Facebook, there seemed to be a little bit more intention among the AGs, but normally it's kind of, if a state comes forward with a case that they are really excited about and are willing to put resources in, that sometimes coalesces into a multi-state. And it's not really us looking so much for one particular case that fits what we'd like to do.
You, of course, have been involved in antitrust for a long time, probably close to as long as I have. But who did you look to, or who do you look to for inspiration? Do you have any role models?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of role models in antitrust, and certainly some of the men that I have worked with have been great role models. Some of my former bosses at the FTC, like Mike Antalix and Rick Fagan in particular. But my main role models have been the women in leadership positions in antitrust, both at the FTC and in the States. One of the women I always looked up to at the FTC was Kathy Moscatelli, who sadly is no longer with us, but she was one of the assistant directors of a merger shop at the FTC and a friend. Then on the state side, your colleague, Trish Connors, in the Florida AG's office was the first female NAAG chair, and Kathleen Foote in California was the second female NAAG chair, and both of them are friends and colleagues as well. And I think the main thing that I've learned from all three of them is that they're very different women and they lead in very different ways, but they're all very effective and powerful leaders. And I think that's been a valuable lesson to me, that there's no one way to be a female leader, and that you need to pick the style that is right for you and feels comfortable for you, and lead that way.
How would you characterize your role as task force chair? What inspired you to do it? And although you may be the third female task force chair, hopefully you will be the only task force chair during the COVID crisis. Could you give us a little insight into that?
Yes, that's certainly been challenging, but I did feel like I had something unique to bring. I'd been practicing for a while. I think I may be the only task force chair with prior federal antitrust enforcement experience. Not positive, but I think so. That's been, was interesting. I litigated some cases. I argued before the Fourth Circuit, and I've testified before Congress. So I felt like I had a good handle on a lot of different areas that might be important to the antitrust enforcement. And then the COVID part is not something I foresaw, obviously, but that has been somewhat challenging, as well as, the state's relationship with DOJ deteriorated a little bit particularly over T-Mobile Sprint, with the states challenging that merger after DOJ had, or some of the states, challenging that merger after DOJ had, and other states had come up with a settlement for that. So, that's been somewhat challenging, as well as not being able to have the in-person meetings that we normally have. Because some of the jobs of the chair are too administrative internally with the task force. And it's very important to be able to sit together in the room and for people to be able to say things, which, you know, when they think of them in terms of a free-ranging discussion, which is really, really difficult to do on a Zoom call.
Now, one of the roles I know of the task force chair is to participate in the spring meeting ABA Enforcers Roundtable, which is just a few short weeks away. First, are you looking forward to it? And second, is there any surprises we can expect? It's always surprising.
Yes, I am looking forward to it. This will, because of the pandemic, I will actually be giving 2 of my 3 roundtable presentations virtually, which is certainly different from sitting in a room of 3,200 people and being on the stage with the other enforcers. You know, it's a little more comfortable to do it virtually, but you do miss the excitement of seeing everybody and being able to network with people and see your friends. So I'm looking forward to it, but I do miss very much seeing all my colleagues and friends in person. But as far as giving you a heads up, I think we'll just have to wait and see. So I can tell you then what the states are up to.
Well, good. I think that that's a good place for us to end. We would encourage everyone to tune into the spring meeting virtual and see what the enforcers are up to. Thank you for your time, Sarah.
Thanks, Liz. Great talking to you.